Hey everybody, welcome back to the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today we're continuing season 3, talking about identity and why it matters. Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about identity, and this is what makes us who we are. So when we get clear in our identity, we can learn to just walk in it. And when we're going to talk about really some key areas that influence who we are, and here's how we can look at each one of them to increase our self-awareness, because self-awareness is really one of the keys to growth in our lives and in our businesses and our nonprofits. And a lot of times we don't connect those dots. And I think as a founder or a leader or an entrepreneur, there is really a higher calling on this identity work, because when we're very clear in who we are, then we can really translate that into who our brand is and what it represents. And when we get that clarity, then we're really able to start casting that vision and impacting the lives of people very clearly and tangibly. So there are 4 components, 4 pillars of identity that we're going to move through as we talk about what really makes us us. And the first one, number 1, is our personality and our gifts, the gifts that we've been given. So a lot of you are familiar with the Enneagram. I know it's very popular, but there's a lot of different personality assessments out there. But I think this first one is really thinking through, how does our personality impact how we view the world and how we operate? This is so important when we're thinking about what makes us who we are. The second thing is the experiences. So what triumphs and hardships have you been through in your life by phase, and how has each one shaped you? So if you think back throughout your life, right, your childhood, your schooling, your whole life, the whole course of your life, what triumphs and hardships have you been through, and how has this shaped you? And then we come to the third pillar, which is the lies versus the truth. And the lies we believe about ourselves, right? There are lots of things that we may or may not receive as truth, right? So we need to make sure that are we making assumptions? Are we making false assumptions about what people think about us, about what they say about us, about how something came out, about how we operate? And so we need to get really clear on seeing ourselves accurately and replacing it with the truth that we believe, and learning to meditate on that truth so that we have an accurate picture of ourselves. And then people is the fourth. Birds of a feather flock together. You may have heard it, and it's true. You're the culmination of the people that you spend the most time with. So what are you gaining from those relationships? And what, if anything, are you giving up from those relationships? So really evaluating this year, as you move into the new year, who you want to be intentional with, and what things are holding you back from walking and who you were created to be. And this roadblock recognition is what we've talked about in these first 3 episodes of season 3. And throwing off the lies that we believe about ourselves is huge. So when we get clear in our true identity and work through the things that have created insecurities in our lives, our clarity will skyrocket. So when we learn to move through holdbacks and work through them and let them flow through us, then we're able to have more freedom to be able to get clarity on the things that we need clarity on. So these are the 4 pillars of identity that we're going to be talking through today. So number 1, your personality and your gifts. And we have a great session with licensed counselor Jessica Jean. She's one of the entrepreneurs that appears out of many in the Strategy Masterclass. We have guests and we have videos with them in the Strategy Masterclass. And this is part of the Breakthrough Map e-course that we have. It's 4 modules, and I'm going to link to it in the show notes. And it also comes with PDF guides on all of this so that you can work through it. This is a great time to do this. Just start fresh in 2021. So when we talk about personality and gifts, we want to look through themes. So themes really emerge from recognizing our gifts and understanding our personality. So when you look back on your life, can you see that there are certain themes that appear throughout your life? And I'm going to give my personal examples just to help for context. But as I look back on my life so far, I've always felt these certain things, but I didn't really recognize that they were a part of my mission until really the past 5 years, I would say. I always knew that I enjoyed these things and I had a passion for them and was constantly learning and reading more, but I didn't know why. So as I continue to move through the process of really understanding what has made me me and receiving healing and processing through past hurts and insecurities, I feel the freedom to begin to move in these things. So I've always done these things. It's interesting, but the scenarios have changed. So I practiced this in high school or the workplace or my family. These are threads that have weaved their way through all of my life. And now that I see them, I recognize them and I feel more freedom to operate in them. So when I think about mine, here are a few that come to mind for me. The first is bringing people from all walks and phases of life together. I was always and still am the in-between person who had many, many different types of friends and relationships. And I loved that. I loved that friends could be so different and have so many different perspectives. And I really love that. I love listening to them and I love bringing people together. Forging unexpected relationships. That's the same thing. Just having different types of friends and getting to know different types of people is always something that I've really enjoyed. And I've always sought after it. It's interesting without even recognizing that I was doing it. Learning and sharing ideas, habits, and ways of intentionality. If you've been listening to this podcast, you can tell that that's something I enjoy doing and continue to do through story work. And I love doing it. It's my passion. So it's really awesome to be able to have a tangible way to do that now. Helping people understand underlying emotional issues and receive healing from those. So it's interesting. You wouldn't usually correlate the work that I do at Storywork with this, but I actually believe that helping business leaders and nonprofit leaders really get clarity in their strategy. And even this identity-based work will help them move the needle and see and hear and know the people that they're speaking to and speak back to them in a way that they want to be spoken to. And that is powerful to me. So really, as you think about this, what are these themes or threads that you've experienced throughout your life that you've always had? It's just a great place to start to think about understanding your personality and your gifts, right? That you've had throughout your life. We all have certain beliefs and tendencies, right? That heavily influence the way we do life. And a lot of these can come from our personalities, right? Or they can come from the way we were raised, our experiences, but we'll get to that. So in the process in the Strategy Masterclass, we give you actually a link to take the Enneagram through the Enneagram Institute. And I'm going to link in the show notes just to the PDF guide as well. But I would really encourage you, if you haven't, to go ahead and take that test and just really understand yourself and more about your personality. So for me, I am a 1, typically on the Enneagram, and they say you're not supposed to reveal your number, but I don't really care. Who knows? So that's really primarily a perfectionist. It's the reformer. So forging paths and determined to make ways. But there are downsides to that, So I think it's allowed me to really understand what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are, and then begin to also fill in or call in certain traits that I know that I don't usually use and I need to get better at using. It also allows me to think about the people around me and the network of people I have from a business perspective and fill in the gaps that I might need, right? So where I fall short, that's where I can understand who I want to partner with to be able to grow and move forward. So that's why understanding these things is so important, not only from a life perspective, but also from a business perspective. And I'm covering these things at a high level, but in the productivity map or the breakthrough map, you can go through these in more detail. So the second pillar is experiences, like we talked about. And this is really can be triumphs and hardships. So the point of this is to really recognize what you've been through in your life, both good and bad, by phase, and connect it with how it has shaped you. So triumphs and struggles, right? Highs and lows have been defining moments in our lives. And sometimes we discount their weight, or we haven't really reflected on them to know how they've shaped us. So this part gets hard because you have to recognize and reflect on things that were painful. So, but it's also critical because processing that pain and how you reacted in it, how it's changed you, what it taught you, and how you can move forward differently is really important. So, there's certain questions that I ask around this, like, is there forgiveness that you're holding back that's actually stifling growth? Or are you afraid of something related to the development of your business because of a past struggle? Do you have certain weights that you're carrying around that are impacting you from operating freely? This all, whether seemingly linked to business development or not, is connected. So challenges present opportunities to become an overcomer. And the theme around the Strategy Masterclass e-course is just not being an overcomer, but just a game changer. So changing the game, doing things differently, refusing to accept the status quo or the patterns or the ruts that we can fall into, right? Like snapping ourselves out of these patterns, not falling prey to them, but doing the work and having those hardships and triumphs shape us, but understanding why, right? So when we do that, they become defining moments in our lives. And even if we don't like how we've handled it in the past or processed them, we get to continue to write the story. We get to continue to do this over again. And in the course, I actually share my personal hardships throughout my life by phases. I can recognize them. I can see them now pretty clearly, just the things that I struggled with throughout my life and what they represented. So I've got things like fear, insecurity, guarded, broken, trapped, right? So those are actually an example of some of the themes of the hardships that I have worked through in the past. And then I've also written down my triumphs or moments that I can look back and say, wow, that shaped me in a really powerful way. That shaped me in a great way, right? So there's so much freedom. I want you not to feel shame or guilt if you feel like you haven't handled things correctly. This life is messy, and I think that is okay. I think when we're willing to live it in a fashion where it's not really about the mistakes we make, but it's how we handle them after they happen, right? There's so much room to learn and to grow and to start again, to begin again. Every day is a chance to begin again. So the great part about doing this is that you can list, and we give you a chart in the PDF guide, the struggle, the triumph, the phase of life, the feeling, and the impact. We give you this chart. It's a triumphs and hardships chart. And you can actually go through this and just take some time and list out the ones that come to mind. And you'll be so surprised. There were even little things that seemingly little things, right? That to other people might seem little. But when I was listing them out, I realized how much they impacted me and how much some of those lies that I believed actually held me back. So with that, we're going into the third pillar, which is the lies versus truth. And I love this section because we get to use the practice of reframing to combat any false assumptions that we're making about ourselves. So here are sample things, right? Like, I'm not good at X, Y, and Z, or I'm not a writer or a speaker or a cold caller or a salesperson. I'm not prepared to do such and such. I'm not qualified to go after, corporate clients, right? Or I don't have connections I need to build a successful business, or, there can be all kinds of assumptions that you're thinking in your head that you're making up about yourself, right? And so really what this part of it calls you to do is look at those things and call them out once again and write them down. We all have them. So these can stem from spirit crushing moments that we've had earlier in our lives. And these moments where people made comments that may have hurt us or told us we couldn't do something, they're carrying weight if we haven't moved them from the subconscious to the conscious mind and actually allowed them to flow out of us and receive healing from them. So they can also come from just relationships around us that may have unhealthy patterns. So it's really important to recognize these patterns and either journal through them or process through them with a trusted person in a safe space and change our response to these patterns. And what do I mean in a safe space? I mean a space where you can be heard without judgment. And I think it's important to choose our spaces wisely and have discernment when we're going to process through these things. So we can't control other people, right? But we can change our reactions to things. So experiences also contribute to lies we may believe about ourselves. And so you've defined some of those experiences, right? As we've been talking through this, some of them may have come to mind. And just by recognizing them, you can now start to call lies into account or false assumptions that you're making about yourself that aren't true. And this really clears them out. And I share a story in the masterclass about personal example of what I experienced in elementary school, and that actually gave me this assumption that I made about myself my whole life. And I realized it just a couple years ago, and it was really interesting. So this is a great example of just how these things can work together. And so what you want to do is really identify that spirit crushing moment or experience that you've been through after you have the chart, clear out those distractions that could get in the way, and build your community with accountability. And that's really what's coming next, what we're going to talk about in the fourth pillar. So we want to recognize it, write it down, find the root, right? And reframe it. And in the masterclass, we go more into actually the tools you can use to reframe this. So reframing is super important. And it's just the ability to turn statements upside down and view them in a different light in order to move forward instead of remaining stuck with them. So this is the practice, and we all seek to become more resilient, right? And so the ability to reframe allows us to become more resilient. And we're going to talk about that more if you go through the course, and we'll give specific examples there and how you can take action. So the last and fourth pillar is birds of a feather flock together, right? And so just really the outcome of this is to really know who you surround yourself with and why. The people in your life matter. You're the average of the 5 people you most associate with, right? That's a quote from Tim Ferriss. And it really is true. If you think about the people that you're surrounded by all the time, you take on their habits, the way they do things, their routines, their ruts, right? Good or bad, right? Some of them. And so I think it's also important to think about this and evaluate this and how you want to change this moving forward. So we talk about what you're gaining from those relationships and what, if anything, are you giving up from those relationships, and really reflecting on how the people in your life shape who you are and who you're becoming. And if you don't like the answer, there's also freedom in that you get to change it. You get to set certain boundaries, or you get to make sure that you're able to vent or process in a safe space, right? Or you're able to find a mentor, right, that can help you in growth. So you might definitely want to list out the people that surround you and think about the channels that you're receiving information from, that you're using to process things. And are they healthy? Are they unhealthy? And what needs to change? What areas do you need to take action on? And this is also a great time of year to do this work. So a few ideas for just connecting on a deeper level with the people around you. Have a monthly mastermind group. Join one of ours. We're launching a couple here in the beginning of this new year. So the Strategy Game Mastermind is just it's a safe space. It's a healthy place to process through things in your business or your nonprofit and grow from it and get the tools you need to scale. Establish an accountability group, right, where you feel safe and where on a monthly basis you can you can do this work with others, or you can do a study or a book together, right? Something that regularly shares thoughts and compares these notes. So we all know these things. It's just a matter of being reminded of them so that we can take action on these things. So there are just so many ways that we can connect with others on an intentional, deeper level. And when we have this built into our schedule, we see the growth happen. We see the moments of reflection that are built in. And it's so good to have those because then it happens, right? When we have others, that accountability piece, we know that it will actually happen. And we definitely weren't meant to do this life alone. So we were created for community. So in the show notes, I know this was a lot to take in this episode, talking about identity. There's so much here. I could go on and on, but I'm going to save that for the breakthrough map. So if you are loving this short series in season 3 of the identity work and feel like you need clarity, you're feeling a fog, you're not sure where you're going, you're not sure on your purpose, or you have some things you know you need to process through, but you don't know where and how, this is for you. So it's a 4-module e-course online. You can walk through it self-paced anytime, anywhere. And it includes video interviews with other founders and professionals and entrepreneurs. And then it also includes the PDF guide. So I will link to this in the show notes, and we hope to see you in that community. Thanks so much.